Now, KZN police have launched a manhunt for suspects involved in the latest mass shooting in that province. 6 people were killed over the weekend in separate incidents. According to reports, the suspects stormed a house in the Durban township of Umlazi and fatally shot 4 people. These same suspects, we understand, then proceeded to a nearby informal settlement and allegedly shot another 3 people. This has yet again highlighted the scourge of mass shootings in this country. Let's unpack it for you. Bring in Willem Els from the Institute for Security Studies, who joins us via our video link this Monday morning. Great to have you on the program as always, sir. Thanks very much indeed for making time. Authorities in KZN are suggesting that perhaps the answer to this is deploying more police officers. Is it?
Good morning, Ayanda. Yes, I think the more feet on the ground, of course, the more visibility there is. But you touched on something that is very important. It seems that the majority of our reactions towards crime is reactive and not proactive, especially when it comes to these type of incidents. We have to commend the police, as we saw that in recent months. There were quite a few intelligence-led operations that led to the arrest of some of these suspects before they could commit the crime, but that is way too much into the minority.
Yeah. What does proactive behavior look like as far as you're concerned? I mean, on a very practical level, what should these officers be doing today, for instance, to avert another mass shooting next weekend?
Okay, on a practical level, it starts with leadership. You need to go have a good plan. Your strategy should be in place, and then your operational plan should be in place. And part of that operational plan, it starts always with a good intelligence. Without that intelligence, your planners and your leaders are working blind. They cannot plan proactively, and they also cannot operate proactively. So that is your biggest challenge at the moment. It seems that we still have a severe lack of intelligence on the ground. Now, we must understand that, our intelligence was broken down to the core, and it takes time to rebuild that. We are in a rebuilding process, but we have to speed it up if we want to win the fight against crime.
Yeah, and winning that fight entails making sure you've got the right people on your side. I suppose what further complicates the matter here is that many people are telling us that it is actually police officers and authorities in some instances who are in on these shootings. In other words, they're working with the criminals.
Of course, if you look at a political level, you see that a lot of especially running up to the election, you see that a lot of assassinations are taking place of political leaders and political figures. That gives you an indication that there must be political involvement taking out the opposition. But also we see that corruption is rampant within the police, and that with virtually every organized crime syndicate that has been arrested, there are 1 or 2 policemen that are also being arrested with them. But that also, that is the challenge on the ground. I think we have to step back and we have to look at the bigger picture on how we can address this.
Yeah. I wonder if there's still a debate about whether or not places like Umlazi are hotspot areas. And if we're past that debate, I suppose questions will be raised about why nothing's been done about how we should respond specifically to those areas.
Yeah, you got your hotspots. If you look at KZN where Umlazi is situated, 30% or just short of 30% of all the murders that occurred in the first quarter of this year occurred in KZN, compared to about 20-22% that occurred in Gauteng. In terms of your contact crimes, that includes your sexual violence and your robberies and so on. South Africa suffered some 164,000 of them in the first 3 months. So that's a lot. In terms of murders, we look just over 6,000 murders that have been committed in South Africa over the period of the first 3 months, and that put us way up there in the top 3 when it comes to countries in the world per 100,000 of murders.
Sure, unthinkable. It's also interesting kind of seeing the modus operandi that these particular suspects used in KwaZulu-Natal. We understand that they first shot 4 people in one area of Durban and then went and proceeded to shoot 2 other people. Does that tell us anything at all about what the possible motive might have been here?
Yeah, in the first place, it's brazen. They are really confident when they are perpetrating their crime. Secondly, it seems that if you look at the reports, that they were looking for an ID document that was lost on a previous incident, and that's why they went to the second scene to actually apprehend the person who they thought was in possession of that ID. Yeah, of course, to conceal the identity of the perpetrator. But I think, as I mentioned earlier, we have to look back at the strategies. We're looking at very focused and localized in KwaZulu-Natal, but overall it seems that our crime strategy in South Africa is not doing really well. It's been failing us, hence the absolute ridiculous rise in crime over the past few years. That is just year on year, it's just out of control. So, and I think, like I said, we have to look at the bigger picture. In SADC, there are two strategies that are very effective and can be very effective if implemented. That's your small arms and light weapons strategy, as well as your transnational organized crime strategy. But we see in both of them that South Africa is severely lacking in implementing those plans. We have fallen behind. So I think if we start there and we start to implement those strategies and spiral it down to local level, I think we will be able to make a dent into this crime.
Yeah. It was a couple of months back when Police Minister Pekikele mentioned that as far as he's concerned, he's seeing a trend of any kind of crime being committed anywhere in the country somehow drawing back to KwaZulu-Natal. In fact, part of what he mentioned is that in many of these shootings, the hitmen typically are from that province. I wonder what that should say, or in what ways that should inform how authorities move, at least with dealing with this kind of crime in KZN.
Yeah, in some circles they're also referring to KwaZulu-Natal as the Inkabi capital of South Africa, or the factory where a lot of these Inkabis or assassins are being trained, but also where they have access to of course, the firearms and the tools that they need to use. So that should be part of the strategy. In order to curb that in your intelligence, you should focus on where are these people being trained, who are training them, where are the hotspots, who are the kingpins? Because, with all of these organized crime syndicates, you have kingpins that are sitting maybe here in Gauteng, or they are even in Dubai in some cases. So we have to go after those kingpins. Otherwise, we will just be catching, the foot soldiers on the ground, and more of these crimes will happen without actually stopping it.
Absolutely. Willem Els, thanks very much indeed, as always, for helping us understand these issues better. We appreciate your time. Willem Els is with the Institute for Security Studies. Thanks very much indeed.